Greetings. I'm Dr. Robert Woods. In this brief tutorial, we'll be talking about a way of imagining or thinking through the roots of the American order. All civilizations that remain for any period of time have to have social, political, and civic order. And so this particular presentation will explore the 5 cities that contributed to what became the American order. And then we'll also talk about some readings that will be coming up that will connect and explore a little bit more in detail these 5 cities and the way in which they contributed to American order. First and foremost, foundational. Many people recognize this, and it really is beyond dispute. The influence of the Jewish Christian faith on the formation, foundation, and early identity of the United States of America is rooted within Jerusalem and within the Christian faith. Jerusalem contributes to the American order by the affirmation early on in the minds of founding writers and many early American citizens that there is one God above his creation. But this God is intimately involved with his creation, primarily through his people. This one God cares deeply about the destiny of each particular person and about nations as a whole. The entire Old Testament and New Testament is filled with references and allusions to God's care and attentiveness to all people of all nations. This one God is the source of all morality and makes his laws intelligible for his creation. There are those who have argued for a good bit of time that the 10 Commandments and then some of the teachings of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount and then later teachings in the New Testament provide the moral and ethical foundation for the order of America. And while that is primarily true, we'll also note that there's been some significant digression away from that moral and legal foundation. The other city that has contributed significantly and ultimately to the United States of America is the great city of Athens, Greece. Human beings are meant to live in community according to the great thinkers of this time: Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and then we'll mention some others. Order in the soul is linked to establishing and maintaining order in the city. We'll also see how ordered cities give every person his due and treat every social class justly, though not necessarily equally. And we'll talk about later, and this will be one of the most fascinating points, that equality under the law or equality within the United States of America does not mean that everyone is always treated exactly the same way at all times. There also we'll see that we inherited from Athens a healthy social order which stems from good models of power, whether it be a monarchy, a republic, or the aristocracy. Healthy social order has to be rooted in proper and fitting authority and power. When authority and power becomes abusive, then it destroys the social order. And finally, the golden mean is a reliable guide for personal and political morality. The golden mean is understood simply as all things in moderation, or nothing in excess. We'll see how this plays out both in Athens and then later in the American order. What about Rome's contribution as a city? There are 2 key points here. The Romans understood the importance of what is called civic virtue, or various virtues that must be public and private. The Romans asserted throughout the ages the key to political virtue is proper reverence for what has come before you. So the political or the order of the people, the civic and political order, must understand the role of reverence or respect of tradition, or those things that precede the particular moment that you live in. Another aspect of this contribution from Rome was when founding virtues become obsolete. That is, when these foundational, founding virtues are dismissed, then order decays in both the particular individual human soul and within society as a whole. And as with Rome and other great civilizations that came to an end, any civilization, any social political order can collapse at any time. This is also true of the United States of America. And we'll be talking about what has prevented that up to this point, but where we may also be in danger as a nation. London. The great city of London asserted that all men, even kings and popes, are subject to the law of society. No one is above the law that is stated to be social law. That is, the order, the social political order of that society as a whole must be adhered to by everyone. No one is above the law. So the power of kings must also be balanced against their subjects' rights. That is, the kings over those whom they serve, they must consider that. The Magna Carta was the first formal recognition of this notion, that the power of the kings are balanced in consideration of their subjects' rights. We'll also be exploring the notion of positive law, and how positive law comes from studying how people in the past have sought justice via natural law. So make a note for here at this particular point that we will be exploring what positive law and natural law, what those two are, and how London gave the contribution to what ultimately became the American order. We also could find out that there are four great thinkers who crystallized the British and now the Anglo-American traditions of ordered liberty. Those authors are Montesquieu, David Hume, William Blackstone, and Edmund Burke. These are names that you will hear again, and these are authors that we will read some excerpts from as we move through the semester. And finally, the great city of Philadelphia. The Declaration of Independence presented their traditional English liberties and language that would appeal to foreign governments. We will discover that the Declaration of Independence and much of what is asserted and affirmed within the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution was not really new. Much of it was not new. It had already been lived or thought about among the British people. Much of it had. But we'll see the unique American contribution to this. The Constitution was, we have to remember, first and foremost, a practical, not ideological document designed to preserve the existing unwritten Constitution that Americans had inherited from Britain. We'll also see that the First Amendment, which is one of the most important ones, and we will spend some significant time on it, the First Amendment protects churches from each other and from corruption by alliance with the government. Well, I'm looking forward to talking more about these cities and their influence on the American order as we make our way through this course.